everyone. Evening, Karen. So last week we left off and we discussed why and what is the reasoning behind why we feel that we owe, why we know that we should be debt free. So a number of people on the panel last week had discussed their particular reasons why. I discussed that the reason why I knew it was be beneficial for my wife and I to be debt free because I was retiring. And I had not been a great steward of God's resources in regards to the funding that he was giving us. And getting to the tail end of my career, being in the United States military, it was scary because you almost like you're in Stockholm syndrome. You're more than aware that you're going to get paid on the 1st and the 15th. But what happens when the 1st and the 15th leaves and you still have 1st and the 15th bills? So that was my why. I had to make a decision why. We had another caller that was up here that they discussed their why based upon they looked at the debt that they were accumulating, where in regards to it's not that they didn't have the money, it's just the fact that they had the money, but they just never considered the possibilities of being debt free, especially in the amount of time that they started going on this path to becoming debt free. When you're looking at a monumental mountain that's over $200,000+ and trying to climb that mountain to the point of being debt free, you can see that it can kind of take you aback. But their why or their faith was stronger than the mountain that they were going to attempt to climb and ultimately overcome. Especially when you have someone that's in your corner to assist you, i.e., in this case, this individual wife. And so that's what we explored last week. We explored the why, because in order for you to go on that path or get on that journey of becoming debt free, you got to first know or understand to yourself, be true unto yourself, as the Lord says in the Bible. Why? Why do I want to come debt free? Now, in this week's session is that now that you may come to the purpose of your why, you got to understand that there's always a foundational thing that you have to establish. Or in this case, what we call in becoming on the journey of becoming debt free is a budget. Now, I've talked to many people in many circles about budget, and it's almost like it has a negative connotation to it when you mention that word. At least in my household, it was a negative connotation because when I established the why, we had to establish the budget. So therefore, we decided this evening that we wanted to explore that terminology of a budget or budgeting, because a lot of us may feel like we know what budgeting is or what a budget is, but what is it truly? And that's the question. So I'm going to open that up, as my first opening question is that, in your own words, when you hear the word budget or budgeting, what do that means to you?
Mm-hmm. You want to go, Karen?
Oh, for me,
Yeah.
I guess first of all, knowing the money that you have coming in and going out,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing what you need to put aside to do things that you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to get there, what you need, the avenue that you need to take to get there.
Right.
I guess for me is
Okay.
what I think about when I think of budgeting.
Good.
Okay.
So when somebody says budget to you, if somebody says you need to be on a budget, do you take that as a positive, or does it normally come off as a negative thing, or is something else I have to do?
Well, for me, it's not negative
Uh-huh.
because I know I have to be on the budget.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's good.
Because I think part of it is like Rondell was talking about earlier, I'm getting older now. I won't say my age since I don't know who's going to be watching
right.
this.
Fair enough.
That's all good.
But let's just say I'm a lot closer to retirement. Well, Rondell, you're retired now, but when it goes by like age, right? You're not retirement age.
Right. Absolutely.
So to speak. And so I am much closer to that age.
Gotcha.
And so, I just started thinking about, okay, when I do become that age, I don't want to be like some of the people that I've noticed where they can barely make it.
Right.
You know, I don't
Mm.
want to be, I want to be able to still be comfortable,
Yes.
you know, when I become that age and actually retire.
Right.
And I want to also be able to, you know, travel or do things that I've wanted to do. I don't want to
Yeah.
just, okay, now I stop working. Now I can't do anything,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the things that I think about. And okay, girl, you got to get it together, because if you just continue to do that and not do what you're supposed to, you know, you could not live that way.
Right. 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 Exactly.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
absolutely. Now, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
real with you, Karen. When
Mhm.
when this was introduced to me by Adrian, and later on in our mini sessions that we're gonna have, we'll tell you how this thing came full circle, and just from a conversation in an office setting has spread wildfire months.
You
Yeah.
good?
So when Adrian introduced it to me, I knew immediately after listening to some of the audio video tapes that he had that the word budget came up. Now, mind you, how I look like I'm in Europe. We're going to European places, visiting sites, shopping with no, let's just say, shopping with no abandonment. It's almost like jumping off the cliff, and we don't even care what is at the bottom of that cliff.
Right.
That's exactly how we were operating. And so I had dinner that night, and I mentioned the word budget to my wife, and I remember the look that came across her face when she looked across the table. You know, she had this look on her face like, budget.
Right.
You know what I mean? Budget. Well, we need a budget for, because we never had done that before in our marriage. We never budgeted. We always knew if it was there, we used it, and we always tried to make sure that everything was covered before we use it. But we never account for the dollar that we had. I mean, would you believe that if you mention the word budgeting or I'm on a budget to anyone in your inner circle, my wife being my inner circle, how would you think that conversation would be received, or anyone else that's on the channel with us this evening? How would you think you would be received by those that in your closest circle if you say, hey, look, um, yeah, I can't go out with you this weekend, or I can't attend that function because I'm on a budget? How would that go across with some of the people that are closer to you?
Yeah. Well, for me, it had a negative conversation the whole time I was. Anytime anybody said a budget, first thing I thought of personally was that means I can't do something because I can't. You know, it felt like it was limitations to me when I first heard of a budget. I thought it was limitations. It's limiting what I can do, and I didn't understand the proper context of it until we started going down this path and we learned what a budget actually was. So, and I'll let somebody else talk. That's Deshaunti, do you want to give your tell what you thought when I mentioned budget to you for the first time?
Yeah, it was the same reaction.
Yeah,
Budget.
yeah. Because to be
I
honest, yeah,
already don't spend a lot of money in the first place. What do you mean?
that was the first thing she said when I said, you know what, babe, I've been listening to this book, and we need to put together a budget. That was the first thing she said to me. I already don't spend that much money as it is. So her first thought was negative, you know, when we first talked about budget and coming up with a budget. So for me, it was always a negative conversation about, you know, what a budget was and you know, and why we had to get on. You had to get on a budget because you didn't have any money. That's what we thought. You had to be on a budget because you don't have enough money to afford what you have. That's what we thought a budget was. And I think that's the negative conversation that a lot of people have when you mention the term budget. So, yeah.
Yeah. I looked at it as it's going to start some arguments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to be real with you.
Yeah.
I do remember for 3 months straight that we argued about said budget. And a lot of arguments revolved around who controlled the budget, you know.
Hey, Tracy.
You know, because let's think about it. You're in a household, you got another adult in the household with you, you both make money, and then you're telling your significant other, we're going to put our household, so to speak, up under a budget, i.e. you're supposed to help guide or mentor the other person how they're going to apply their money, that they don't spend 40 plus hours a week, even some holidays, and you telling them like, that bi-monthly or bi-weekly going to get your hair done. We want to cut that down to once a month. At the same time, you coming in the house with another 55-inch TV after you done said that. That was me. that was me, because I was like, well, we in Europe, we need a European TV, because the American standard TV, I see your nonverbal, Shonda. Yeah, I was totally wrong in that. So, but that's what happened. That literally happened, is that although we were trying to attempt to have a budget, it's a way that you should construct that budget. Yeah. So that way both parties can be very involved in the process of building that actual budget. Yeah. I was building thinking, again, that's where I failed in that aspect, trying to convey the individual that is most closest to me and who's going to be my life partner in everything that I do, how important a budget is. But then picking and choosing when I want to go outside said budget, like 55-inch that I saw in the BX, when we really didn't need that 55-inch. It just had a good price on it. But that's where it comes down to how budgeting can have that negative connotation, because commitment. So when I say the word commitment and we're talking about budget, what did that mean to what did it mean to you guys on the channel? Because you can have a budget, but do you believe that in order for it to work and operate as it's designed to operate, does it take a level of commitment, or we should be able to just pick it up and put it down anytime we want to? And I'll leave that for anybody that want to chime in on the channel.
Yeah. No, it's all about commitment on that. Yeah. Anything financial, and savings and paying your bills is all about commitment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But see, that's the one thing that we know, is that we got to go to work so we can pay these bills, Yeah. And the whole thing that I found out about the budget was, the budget is basically you telling your money where it's going to go. Because instead of you going out to eat and, as long as we had money in the account, as long as I looked at my bank statement or I logged into my bank account and saw that I had a balance of X amount of dollars, and I knew I could go to McDonald's or I could go out to eat that night and we'd had the money available. But what we didn't do was, when we get our income, we don't assign it a duty. So basically, if you don't tell your money what to do, then your money does whatever it wants to do. And you have no clue where it went, or all you know is you got paid and you paid your bills on time, but you have no clue where the rest of that money went, And so what you do with a budget, what we found out with a budget is basically just telling your money what it's going to do for that month. So we're going to talk about the zero-based budget, which there's a bunch of different budget types out there. But what we found that really worked for us and we applied towards, our debt-free journey, was doing what they call a zero-based budget. And we got a video that we're going to play at the end that'll kind of, Anthony O'Neill, who's one of the folks that we kind of watch his shows and listen to him. He does a lot of good interviews. They give a lot of good advice. But he goes through what a zero-based budget is and breaks down how to do a zero-based budget. And there's several different apps that you can use as well out there. But go ahead, Rondell.
Yeah. So as Adrian stated that, and especially with the apps, is that I knew that me utilizing my intellect and pieces of paper was not going to keep me on track when it came down to the budget. I needed to create something that will allow my wife to be able to see the transactions as the transactions are happening, in regards to expenditures and making sure that we dictate where our dollar goes versus our dollar dictating where we're going to spend it at. And then also where we found that I was a culprit of is that you have some of those transactions that don't show up readily available. Although you made a transaction and you go in there and you're looking for the pending, and the pending don't show up. So therefore, this piece of paper here that I utilized in the past before I became a little bit more advanced in regards to our budgeting, and it's truly our budgeting. It's no longer My budgeting is no longer her budgeting, it's our budgeting, because we check and balance ourselves. We make our dollars, and we dictate where those dollars go, because in all what we do, we're being good stewards to the resources that God gave us. Who's the ultimate CFO or the ultimate president in everything that we do within our lives, and we couldn't find ourselves that we can honor our God and our Lord and Savior with our tithes and offering, but we can also honor Him in our actions of what He gives us is that 90%, and making sure that we utilize it, or we manage it or steward it in the proper way. And so, like Adrian stated, that we tend to follow a lot of individuals that's within the financial arena, so to speak. The gentleman that we're going to look at tonight here in about the next minute or so, his name is Anthony O'Neill. He was originally a Dave Ramsey personality, and with Dave Ramsey blessing, he embarked on his own podcast of teaching everyone about how to, one, how to become debt free. So that's the first thing that he shared with everyone, laying that baseline. And as you continue on that journey, and as we go through weeks of this, we will share our journeys with you and the path that we took in order to become debt free. He's also showing those going a little bit further, or going further in the aspect of generational wealth, building that generational wealth for your family, not just for yourself as you here on in this plane on this earth at this particular time, but also the loved ones that you're going to leave behind. And so that way they can carry on what you have already established. So the video I'm going to share is a quick, about 8 minute and 30-second video. Anthony O'Neill just going through the steps of a zero-based budget.
Basics to budgeting. Now I want you to stick for this entire segment, because I'm just going to give you some example numbers. I have my phone because I've already written down the numbers, and I want to make sure that I give you all a good solid example of how to budget. Now, Toy just taught us, hey, you can go to Target, you can go to Express, you can go to Zara, and you can look fly, you can look good. And I want y'all to look good, but I also want to make sure that you're not breaking the bank trying to look good, all right? So I want you to clearly have a budget. Now, here's the thing. For me, when it comes to budgeting, I believe you should have a zero-based budget. Where this is, you're going to list all of your income, you're going to minus all of your expenses, and it should equal zero. So, for an example, let's say, you are making $3,000 a month net, all right, from your job. And let's say you're grinding. Let's say you one of them boss chicks, because one of the rising entrepreneurs in America right now is a woman. So let's say you are that boss chick. Or for the brothers still watching, let's say you got an extra side hustle and you're bringing in an extra $1,000. So your income is going to equal $4,000. Okay, this is a month. All right. So you're going to put this at the top of your budget. Now, listen, don't worry about this right now, because what I'm going to do is at the end of this segment, I'm going to drop in the show notes Ramsey Plus, where you can get a free trial of our every dollar budgeting software that will literally walk you through all of this. It's going to ask you all the questions you need to know. Now, once you list your income, okay, you're going to list all of your expenses, okay? Okay, so let's break this down. For $4,000, here's the truth, you guys. From the very first thing, I believe in being generous. I believe in giving. So I believe in giving 10% back to the local church. Now, if you're not a Christian, I want you to find somewhere to where you can give. So for me, if I'm making $4,000, I'm giving, the very first thing is $400 to my local church, because that's 10%, all right? Then I'm going to take care of my four walls. We did a video about this here a few weeks ago, where we're going to cover our utilities, we're going to cover our food, we're going to cover our housing and our transportation. So let's say, for an example, your rent is $1,000. I'm going to list that, okay? All right? Then let's say our utilities is $200. We're going to list that. All right, then let's say our gas bill for our cars. I have here, let's say, for an example, we're paying, let's say $400. All right. So we're going to list that. Okay. Then let's say here, we also have our grocery bill. And check this out, our out to eat. Okay. We're going to list that here. That's another $400 that we're having. So we're listing every single expense. Now, some of us have insurance. Okay. So this is going to be another, what do I got here? $400 a month, okay? This could be for your car insurance, your renter's insurance, you name it. Then, boom, here we go. Let's say you need to buy some clothes this month, $200. Let's say your budget for the month to spend on clothes is $200. You're going to list that right here. Now, when I name this next one, sometimes people get confused, all right? I'm not saying that I have a miscellaneous item. My miscellaneous item is not my emergency fund. By the time we get to here in your budgeting, you should always have a fully funded emergency fund. But for miscellaneous, it's like, hey, let's say for an example, you just want to create a space to where, someone calls and says, hey, let's go out and grab something, or something does go on sale that you want. You can pull it from your miscellaneous item, which is $200. All right. Now, let's say, here's the final thing, the remaining $800 towards your debt. Okay. This is going to be paying off your debt. Now, let's go back up to the $200 for clothes. Now, we all got to have clothes to wear because we got to go to work. We got to look presentable. But let's say, for an example, you can go a few months without purchasing brand new clothes, or maybe you can go 2 months without purchasing and you put that extra $200 towards your debt. That's $1,000 you can put towards your debt. And maybe you go back another month, you put $200 towards clothes to keep something fresh and to get what you need to do. But just make sure your number one priority right now, if you are in debt, your number one priority is taking care of your 4 walls, okay? And then it's paying off your debt. Then after that, everything else, date nights, clothing, all that type of stuff is there. But here's the key thing, you guys. You want to list all of your income, okay? $4,000 is your income. You're going to list all of your expenses. This is just an example of some of your expenses. This is your tithe. This is your rent, okay? This is your utilities. You're going to list every single thing. And what should happen is, at the end of this, it should come out to $0 left. Now, if you're over, let's say you have a negative $15, we need to come up here and move things around in your budget to make sure that you have 0 at the end of it. Let's say you have an extra $200 left when you get down here and you listed everything. Well, come back up here, add more towards debt. If you have no debt and you have a fully funded emergency fund, go up here, you can add more towards maybe your miscellaneous item of $200. Maybe you can put some more money towards clothes. Or if you're a single brother and you're dating, like myself, you can add a little bit extra to maybe your dating line item. The key thing here is, as I end today's show, is I want to make sure that as we are growing, as we are evolving, as we are enjoying life, I want us to enjoy life. I want us to buy the things that we want. I literally meant this when I said this in the show. Ladies, I want you to have a pair of red bottoms. I want you to have the Gucci backpack. I want you to have the Louis Vuitton. Brothers, I want us to have the nice things, the nice name brand things. But I want to make sure that when we buy it, it's within our means. Not we buy it and we're broke when we get home. No. When we have nice things, let's own it. Let's enjoy it. Let's not regret it down the road. And we do that by making sure that our priorities are taken care of first. So this is what I want you to do, okay?
So that's what we mean by commanding your dollars to go where they should be going. And then making those adjustments in your budget when your budget comes to 0 or it comes to a negative, or even if it comes to a plus. The thing of it is that God has made us all great stewards, and he has given us the ability to be stewards here within the earth. My goal is to be able and positioned in such a way that when God wants to use me as his avatar for whatever he wants me to use me in, I have that capability by utilizing the tool that he gave me to be used for the purpose that he had given me to be used in. Whether to be a more generous giver to someone or my local church, if he deems it and had placed it over my heart, or to just be there at the appropriate time, at the appropriate hour, to help someone that I don't even know. I think there's a lot of times that we find ourselves that we're wanting to do things, and we're wanting to help someone or be of help to someone, whether it be with knowledge or whether it be with resources, but we find ourselves that we can't be because we have not been good stewards of the resources he gave, i.e., we have not built a budget. And so that's what we wanted to share with you guys tonight, is that there has to be a foundation in order to take the journey that we're on right now, and that's ultimately become debt free, and ultimately to be able to, live like no other, so that we can give like no other. So that is an actual phrase that I actually live by, that I believe that's biblical. God has placed us in integral positions to be His hands and feet on here on this earth. But in order for us to be His hands and feet, we got to make sure we're not tied to other masters. And i.e., what I mean by that is debt. That is the new masters of this day and age. So before I close out, I want to open up the forum for anybody who may want to speak on the two videos that you just have seen.
I have a quick question. When he came up with $1,000 for his emergency fund, what did he say that consisted of? Like, where did he get his figure from? Because that doesn't seem like a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it's more like, everyone needs an encouragement to know that they can actually do it. So that's where, but statistically being honest, that in America, most people don't even have $400 in their savings account.
Yeah.
I would tell you, when I was a young airman in the military, that I was always taught, even the military told you need to have at least $500 in your savings account, just in case you get in a car accident and you can pay the deductible on your car in order to get another car. And so that's where it comes from, that Anthony O'Neill, Dave Ramsey, and some other financial coaches and analysts throughout that we kind to watch often on. I watch Anthony O'Neill and I watch several others. Statistically saying that most people don't even have $1,000 in their savings account. And therefore, that's where they start off with. So that way, in the process of you budgeting and paying off your debt, if a crisis happens, then you have an emergency fund already established to deal with that crisis. Tire goes flat, something adverse, like you get an offender bender and you still have to pay that deductible. You don't have to take it away from what you've already trying to establish to pay down your debt, the budget that you're creating. You can go into your emergency fund. Now, don't get it twisted. If you utilize that resource, you need to put that resource back, so that way you can get back on track to pay down your debt and to maintain your budget.
Yeah. You pause paying down your debt to get that $1,000 back. But really, the $1,000 is meant so that if you do have an emergency, you take your car to get the oil changed, and then they give you that phone call they always give you. Hey, we was in there, we was looking, and you're gonna need this, and this done. And then the next thing you say is, okay, well, how much is that gonna cost me? And depending upon what number they say, okay, that makes a decision on whether you're gonna say, all right, go ahead and do it, or all right, I'm gonna get that done next time.
Right.
So or you make the decision that it needs to be done, and then the only thing you have available is your credit card balance, and you go charge it on a credit card because you don't have the money to pay for it. So that's what that $1,000 is there for, so you can really be focused in on paid off. The next step from that standpoint is to did I lose me? Oh, y'all still there? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the next step, Karen, as far as the emergency fund, and we'll go over this in one of our later videos, is that you're gonna really, once you get your debt and baby step 2 taken care of, then you're gonna build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So that means you're gonna have enough money set aside that if you lose your job or something happens, you get sick and you can't work for 3 to 6 months, everything is still going to be taken care of. All your four walls will be taken care of. So yeah,
Absolutely.
So that's that. So we do get to that part where you build out that full emergency fund, which is, I think, what you were hinting at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But there's steps to it. So we want to make sure we methodically take each step at it, one at a time, because I have done the steps ish, and they didn't work. You know, I'm just going to leap ahead, but it didn't work out so well. So I do believe in that if you have a plan, and if you take your plan, your petitions to God, God bless your plan, and you take those steps as they're designed to be taken, you'll reach the ultimate goal of being debt free, and then start and therefore when it comes down to retirement is no longer, which I see a lot of people in my job, they're worried about retirement versus can't wait to retire.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
and Karen, and the retirement will be more so a number for you as opposed to an age. So once you hit, once you're able to take your actual income and apply it towards your retirement, and you know, put a certain amount aside, then now it all becomes now your target doesn't become when I turn 65. It's when my account gets to this point, I'm in a position to where I can retire, whether that's 59 and a half. Right now, mine is 55. When I hit 55, I'll be able to make a decision on whether I want to retire or whether I want to keep working or whether I want to smoke barbecue or whatever I want to do. So,
right.
Absolutely.
So it gives you that freedom. But but that was all we had for this episode. We just want to you know, thank everybody for joining us. And like I said, we're going to expand upon this each week, and you know, invite friends or family members. Like I said, we're going to have this open forum. We're going to record it so that way people can go back and watch this later, and you know, and we'll be taking questions and answers, because you know, we got people. We all started from this. I started this journey 4 years, 3.5, 4 years ago. Me and Shonda. So and it went from, you know, us having everything under the sun, from credit card to 401k loans, to student loans, to second mortgages, car notes. We had it all. So I can tell you that these steps work if you apply them and work them. And now we are at the point where we own everything here in the house. I even own my education now. So,
amen.
So and we own the title to the house. And, you know, and God has done so much in that 4 years that I wouldn't have thought possible had you asked me the month before. So we know this stuff works, and that's why God has put it on our heart to share this with everybody and help other people get to where they want to be at financially and get that freedom, because that freedom is what we all want. So,
Adrian. I want to add something.
Yes.
Retirement will teach you a budget. Best to learn it before you retire. That's the advice that these guys was giving us. But when you retire, you will be a budgeter.
Yeah, well, whether you want to or not, right?
You want to or not.
No, those are facts, Tracy. Those are definitely facts.
So you know, either you can start it now, or you know, you're going to do it eventually.
Right.
But it's best to do it when you don't have to do it.
Right. Yep.
You know, so that's, you know, man, like I said, and I can squeeze $1 so much now that it don't make sense.
All right, guys. Well, we thank you guys for joining us tonight. And we look forward, like I said, to doing this, moving forward. Like I said, our plan is to have this every Monday. And if it gets to the point where we get so big that we have to have different sessions and private sessions so we can get in more detail, then that's what we'll do. So me and Rondell have really committed to what God's purpose was for us. And like I said, he's given us this light, and we don't want to keep it in our own closet, and we get the benefits of it and not share it with other people.
Amen. Absolutely. You know, the one thing you got to remember is, you know, make sure your faith is bigger than your fear. Right. Because when you do go on this journey, I'm just going to be honest with you. You're going to have some fear, but you got to also stay in faith. Right. It does work. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Yeah. So like Adrian said, and on behalf of Adrian and everyone on this call, I truly, truly thank you for joining us tonight. You not only blessed us, but you also you also encourage us also just by showing up tonight. So if you know any others, as Adrian stated, please have them join. This is a non-retribution, a non-judgment environment. We've all been there. As I depicted in my first started talking, we have all done some things that, you know, that was contradictory to what we said we were going to do. I bought a TV. I said I was going to budget, but I still bought that TV. Right. But you know, again, this is a place of learning, a place of transparency, a place where you can ask those candid questions, because it's not an easy journey, but it's a worthwhile journey if you decide to take the step.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, it's not going to be your lifestyle move, you know, always. You're just going to sacrifice for a small window, and once you're done, and then you got the horizon to look at, you know, after that. So
the greater joy.
Yeah, the greater joy, exactly. So,
Amen.
All right, guys, we won't hold you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Have a good week, guys.
Okay.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right.